the next bear market is going to be the worst in my lifetime because of all this staggering amount of debt. Nearly every government, every central bank in the world has been printing huge amounts of money and borrowing and spending huge amounts of money. It's never happened like this in the history of the world. Never in recorded history have we seen so much excess. I'll call it excess. They think it's normal. They think it's fine. And this has caused many markets to go up a lot. You know, if you want to build a bridge, it takes a long time. But if you want to invest and you have a lot of money floating around, you just go on the internet and in 5 seconds you can invest in anything you want to. And that's what's been happening, and that's what's continuing to happen. There might be signs that's beginning to slow down. The Chinese seem to be cutting back some, not a lot. Well, not a lot, but they're cutting back. They're not expanding. Other countries say they're cutting back, and the U.S. says, "Oh, maybe we should cut back someday." But in the meantime, there's gigantic amounts of money floating around. It's going into markets. It's going into the real economy as well. It's artificial. If you see some of the things that, the shipping business is just unbelievably hot right now because there's so much money floating around. The bad news is these things always end, and the better they get, the worse they get when they end. And as I said, we've never seen anything like this in recorded history, so be worried. I'm not short. I haven't sold short anything, but I am certainly worried. As I look around the world, bonds are clearly in a bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in the history of the world, not in recorded history anyway. Property in many places, you go to Korea, you go to New Zealand, you go many places, property is certainly in a bubble. Stocks, many stocks. I mean, Amazon goes up every day. Tencent goes up every day. Samsung goes up every day. So some stocks performing a bubble, but there you have stocks, property, bonds, all in bubbles or forming bubbles. The only thing that's still cheap, commodities. Silver's down 60% from its all-time high. Sugar's down 70% from its all-time high. Oil is down 50%. I mean, these are not bubble numbers when you talk about big declines, historic declines. But with all the money being printed, the asset class in the world that I prefer at the moment would be commodities because they're cheap when everything else is booming. I'm not short. I know it's going to end badly. If something comes along that's good, I'll buy it. But Adam, I know this is going to end very, very, very badly. To repeat, the better it gets, the worse it's going to get when it comes to an end. I would suspect that when it ends, we're going to have the worst bear market in my lifetime. In 2008, we had a big bear market problem because of too much debt. Adam, since 2008, the debt everywhere skyrocketed, unbelievable. Even China has debt now. China didn't have debt 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but even China has a lot of debt now. Who's going to save us? The Chinese saved us in 2009 because they had a lot of money saved for a rainy day and they started spending it. They don't have a lot of money to spend now. Who's going to save us? North Korea? It's going to end someday, and it's going to end badly when it ends. You said either currency collapse or economic collapse. You can have both. You can have one and then it leads to another. In the 30s, we had both, for instance, around the world. And then we had war, a shooting war. And that's the really bad news is often in history when you have really, really bad times, especially worldwide, it winds up in shooting wars. It certainly did after the 30s. It's not good news. I don't see good news. I repeat that in 2008 and 9, we had horrible problems with too much debt. Since then, the debt has gone through the roof by unbelievable amounts. And I know that's going to end bad. I don't want to scare people or anything else. I own shares. I'm not short anything as we sit here right now. If you know something for me to sell short, I doubt if I would, because I know how much money they can print. But I do know it's going to come to an end, and all of us should probably watch Wealthy on to get prepared or to get worried. If we know what's going on, we'll get worried, and if we get worried, we'll probably get prepared, and then we might survive. Some people came out of the 30s very rich. Most didn't. Most lost huge amounts of money. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. We don't care how much money you print. So that in that kind of scenario, we go down in October, and this is not a projection, but it's not a prediction. This is just a scenario. Go down in October, they print a lot, have the big year-end rally, and then 2022 is a serious problem. As I said, the next bear market is going to be the worst in my lifetime because of all this staggering amount of debt. When the bureaucrats and the central bankers see problems, they're going to do everything they can to save their jobs. So they're going to print even more money, as you point out. They may buy stocks. In Japan, the Bank of Japan buys ETFs. I own Japanese ETFs. He's got more money than I do. If he's got unlimited amounts of money, I want to own some as well. But so my point is that I would suspect that most of these guys will do their best to get things up again. We'll have that last rally. Now, I'm a horrible market timer, Adam, so you shouldn't rely on me at all, but that's the way I anticipate what's going to happen. We will have maybe even a blow off. Many markets, I've seen markets end in blow offs. It just gets so crazy that if you remember 1999, 2000 probably, it ended in a blow off. I've seen them before. Kuwait 30 years ago, etc. Japan in the late 80s, huge blow off. It's just staggering how much the Japanese market, the Japanese market is down today over 30% from where it was in 1990. Over 30 years, and it's still, so that just shows you what kind of huge blow off they had, and also how many problems Japan has, but that's another conversation. So that's how I anticipate things happening in the future. But Adam, if it were that easy, we'd all be rich. History's pretty clear that when you have bad times, there is usually social unrest. People aren't happy. And if we do, in fact, have the worst bear market of my lifetime, which I don't see how we can avoid, if and when that comes, there are going to be a lot of very, very unhappy and angry people. And one difference in now and the past is people really get angry now. They think that you can't do that to me. In the 30s, people were a little more disciplined, a little more understanding of what was going on in the world. They weren't happy. There were protests. There was some violence, not much violence in the U.S. anyway, since that's what we're talking about. But people were a bit more accepting of the system. No, Adam, look out the window. Nobody accepts anything now. You can't do that to me. It's your fault. It's not my fault. So no, we're certainly going to have social unrest, certainly in the U.S., but in other countries as well. Let me repeat, you should watch Wealthy on. You find out what's going on. If you do, you'll get worried, and then you'll get prepared. Because Adam, it's very clear. This history shows that when things go really wrong,